So hello fellow Earthlings, this is Earthling 6455463728 and Gayle King, friend of Oprah and of her own personal fame that she's garnered on her own. She was on an excerpt of the Drew Barrymore show, one of these promo things that Drew Barrymore has for her new show. And Drew was talking to her about her book and all this other stuff, and she revealed to me what was one of the craziest stories that I've ever heard in my life, which is that she turned down being Oprah 2.0 so that her kids could live close to their father. Yeah, I mean, for some of you, it'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. You got to do what's best for the kids. And for other people who are like me, you might be like, that's crazy. Now, I have to say that I get not making suggestions to other people as to what you think they should do with their lives. And the main reason for that is that a long time ago, this kid, he was taking a class, he was on scholarship, and he was a friend of mine, and he said to me that, hey, well, I don't know that he came up to me to say it, but I found out that he was going to drop a class that he was taking, computer science class, and I was like, hey, don't drop the class, you take the class. Well, at the end of the semester, I was like, how'd you do in the class? He failed the class. And he's on scholarship. So that could have been the end of his scholarship, or he could have been on academic probation or whatever it was. And I was thinking, oh my God, what have I done to this guy? And, the same thing happened to me. I was in a class and it was just beyond me. The assignments were piling up and I could not make heads or tails of the first one, what to do. Programming class, and people, I told people I was going to drop the class, and they were like, no, don't drop the class, I'll help you, and I just remembered what happened to the guy that I had given the advice to, and I knew, there's nobody who's going to help me out of the situation when I'm at the 5th assignment and I don't know how to do the first one. It's not going to happen. So I dropped the class and I was fine. Yeah, it sounds selfish. What happened to the first guy? Well, the university apparently didn't pay much attention to what happened to people who were on scholarships, so they never put him on probation as far as I know. Or maybe they did put him on probation. He was there. He did well. He works at the university, so it worked out. But, and it even happened for somebody else. So I know that giving people advice is really dangerous because you never know if that junk is just going to mess them up and then it's your fault. Anyway, with Gayle King though, I'm sorry, my personal opinion, she has already done what she did with her life. There's no going back and getting a do-over. But for Gayle King, I just think she's a nutty person. And the reason why I'll say that is because, for one thing, she is hitching her bandwagon. Well, when she did it, she hitched her bandwagon and basically to what her husband's life was going to be like. This might be a series of ifs, but I think the ifs display the futility of what she did to me, which is, if you gave up on, being Oprah 2.0 like you did, and you stay in the area where your husband lives, and boop, he loses his job. He has to move to find another job. Are you going to follow him across the country so that your kids are going to be okay? That seems like madness. If he gets married and his wife wants to move back to wherever she's from because, to help to live with her parents. You gonna follow him across the country? That seems ridiculous. If you've given up on this thing and he dies, then what was the point of it? Like, he died, the next day or a year later. What was the point of it? If you moved to where you needed to be in California, you could have just given him a house and he could have lived over there in California. Now, maybe she was talking about the grandparents. Maybe she wanted to live close to, her in-laws so that her kids would have that. I suppose maybe that, makes the equation make a little bit more sense. But to give up on such a momentous... is this a mother move? Is this a crazy mother move? Because I hear, people like, for example, Howard Stern, when he was talking about, the long hours that he works, and his kids would know that it's all for them. Of course, it's not all for them. It's for Howard, and it's for his ego, and it sounds nice to put it on your kids that, hey, it's for you. I think my dad would say something as ridiculous, and people that I've talked to about him would say things that are ridiculous that make sense to them like that. Or, my mom might say something like, she can't do this particular event, or she can't do this other thing because of her kids. And I was kind of like, exactly what are you going to do for us that you can't do this thing? I saw that happen so many times. Because at the end of the day, my mother wasn't going to come back home and spend time with me. I was going to go read a book or watch TV, and I don't know what my sister was going to do, but we were just a convenient excuse for things that she didn't want to do. So, and then, she would throw in my uncle and my grandparents in there for good measure for those excuses. Like, yeah, because of the family and the kids and my mother and this, my brother, he's not well, and this other thing. She'd just throw all this stuff in her big excuse bandwagon to just go home so she didn't have to do something. So I don't know if Gayle was doing that too when she was explaining it. Because here is Howard. Maybe he lives, the same place. I don't think he maybe might have moved, or maybe he did move for Sirius Radio, for example. And he's just like, yeah, my kids are going to have to figure this out. Well, he's not saying that part, but it's implied. And I've heard of other guys who make similar excuses. I would say, my kids, this is something that I'm doing for my kids. If you're already seriously wealthy, okay, then whatever you're doing, piling more money into the coffers, hard work and trying to accomplish things for yourself is something that kids should value. The support that you give your kids for them working hard, I think, is more important than any amount of money or fame that you might try to give your kids. And then I don't know that fame really helps them. It's more of an overhanging thing where they can't get out of the shadow of their father. So it really, to me, just ends up being an excuse for that person to go ahead and really spend little time with their kids because they're doing this other thing that's really for their kids, but really ends up just, reducing the amount of time that they end up spending with their kids, and gives their kids this thing that they can't really get out from under. This, you're so-and-so's son, you're not your own person. So quite honestly, I'm just thinking that, Gayle probably is shooting herself in the foot to an extent, because we don't know what her husband is actually going to end up doing. And I don't think that she probably wants to follow her husband around the country, the US, or even another country if he decides that he wants to live there just for the benefit of her kids. And when I think about it, it's also a great loss to the rest of us who would have liked to see the things that Oprah can produce. Now, don't get me wrong, Oprah is not the be all and end all of talk shows. You know, crazy people like Deepak Chopra, I don't think they had a place on her show, but she's into that kind of stuff. But there were lots of other interviews and discussions that probably were useful to us. She was a spot for these celebrities to go and show a little bit more in terms of long form interviews, not 3, 4, 5 hours long like Joe Rogan, but still something that everybody would kind of focus on, to have the focal point of all the people who paid attention to her. And I'm really kind of sad that Gayle didn't take it up. I don't know if she would have held the mantle, carried the mantle, as they say, as in the same vein as Oprah, if it would have been as great a show. But I think it's just women who are shooting themselves in the foot. And is there a glass ceiling, or is there also a invisible anchor, a ball and chain that women are mentally shackled with, that they would make a choice like this that few men ever would? And I think a lot of times we want to make this ideal garden for our children that we never had. Now, since we never had it, we don't know what the effect of it is. We're told about this fairy tale, I think, of a mother and a father, and together they do what-a-da. I don't know that any hunter-gatherers had any guarantees of a mother and father, being there to raise them. There's this thing in the Bible, of which there are even few really heart-inspiring stories of a mother and a father being there. I mean, even for Jesus, where's Joseph? Did he live until Jesus was an adult? Or any of these people in the Bible? When you look at Adam and Eve, I mean, Cain and Abel, apparently they lived together and they were fine. And how did that turn out? Was that the nuclear family that we aspired to, where our brother kills another brother? I don't know where this nuclear fantasy that we have comes from, but it continues. And Gayle, I feel like she just fell for it, as 99.999% of us do, that at least she got a divorce because she believed in monogamy and her husband didn't, which I thought was funny when she was telling Drew Barrymore. You could see she still has a little bit of anger in there about that. But she still has this thing where, okay, I got a divorce, I'm free from you, we're separate, but let's still kind of keep this illusion going of a mother and a father, and this will be the best environment for the two of us. I don't know what the marker is for how things turn out, except to say that society does not support single women. I think it's not a question of the fact that kids who grow up with a mother and a father turn out better. I think that they might be financially better off because society doesn't support single mothers, and they don't make sure that guys are there for their kids. Or is that even natural? I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, guys, talk to you later. Peace.